Welcome to this explainer. If you've even glanced at the news today, you've definitely seen the intense footage coming out of New Delhi. It can be super overwhelming to figure out exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and what's really at stake here. So we're going to untangle this chaotic news cycle of July 20th, 2026, and break down exactly how an offhand remark from a judge sparked one of India's largest youth uprisings in recent memory.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're hitting the March on Parliament, that infamous cockroach spark, the broken exams and leaks, the resulting demands and escalation, the totally unrelated temple theft, and finally, what happens next. Let's get right into it.
Part 1, the March on Parliament, July 20th, 2026.
So today, right as Parliament opens its monsoon session, organizers are claiming up to 100,000 supporters, one lakh people, have literally flooded the roads to Jantar Mantar. People are gathering at transit hubs, pushing toward Parliament Street, and running right into heavy police barricades and tear gas vehicles. It is a massive, incredibly tense standoff right at the beating heart of Indian governance.
Moving to Part 2, the cockroach spark. Now, to understand why this massive crowd is marching today, we actually have to hit pause and rewind back to May 15th. It all started with this exact quote from the Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant. During a hearing about fake law degrees, he said unemployed youths who don't find jobs turn to social media and attack everyone like cockroaches. Wow. Now, he did clarify later that he meant people with fraudulent credentials, not everyday youth, but the damage was already done. It just felt like a massive, out-of-touch slap in the face to a whole generation already struggling to find work.
But here's where it gets wild. Political strategist Abhijit Dipke literally took that perceived insult and flipped it. The very next day, he launched the Cockroach Janta Party, or CJP, as a complete internet meme. Their slogan, the voice of the lazy and unemployed. By taking the insult and wearing it as a badge of honor, this internet satire morphed practically overnight into a very real, formidable street movement, backed by heavy-hitting student groups like SFI and ASA.
Part 3. Broken exams and leaks.
You see that cockroach comment? That was really just the match. The actual fuel for this fire is a systemic failure affecting millions. Just imagine you're one of the 2.27 million students taking the ultra-competitive NEET UG medical exam on May 3rd. You pour your heart and soul into it, only to find out days later that a matching guest paper had completely compromised the test. Over 100 questions leaked, allegedly traced back to a cheating racket in Rajasthan. For families who literally empty their life savings for test prep, this was completely devastating. And unfortunately, it wasn't the only failure.
We're looking at a massive double whammy here. On one side, you have the NEET paper leak, which forced a total cancellation and retest in late June. On the other side, a complete tech disaster with the CBSE Class 12 grading. The board rushed out a new on-screen marking system with barely 60 days of prep. The result was an absolute mess of blurred scans and unmarked answers. And the kicker? They wouldn't even let students re-verify their botched scores under the new system. It's like a giant puzzle of institutional failure that completely shattered these students' trust.
Which brings us to Part 4, demands and escalation.
So, with the system failing them not once but twice, the CJP turned that outrage into a highly specific action plan. In their June 11th manifesto, they are loudly and directly demanding the resignation of the Union Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan. But they're not stopping there. They want a total structural overhaul of agencies like the NTA and CBSE, mandatory exam postponements if things look fishy, and 10,000 rupees in compensation for every single affected student. They know exactly what they want, and they are aiming it right at the Ministry of Education.
And man, things escalated incredibly fast. From the first street protests on June 6th to that formal manifesto on the 11th. But the stakes were dramatically raised on June 28th. That's when famous climate activist Sonam Wangchuk started an indefinite hunger strike in solidarity. Fast forward to just days ago, July 18th, and Delhi police actually forced a very weak Wangchuk into the hospital. His supporters called it a straight-up abduction. Police cited medical necessity. Either way, that explosive event was the powder keg that set off today's massive Parliament march.
Moving on to Part 5, the unrelated temple theft.
Now, to be completely objective here, it is absolutely vital that we untangle this student movement from another huge scandal that is probably blowing up your feeds right now. There's a serious, ongoing investigation into the embezzlement of about 3 crore rupees in donation money from the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Arrests have been made. It's a huge deal. But, and this is critical, it has absolutely zero to do with the CJP's demands. The Temple Trust theft is a real, serious story, but it's running on a completely parallel track to the student protests.
It is super easy to get these mixed up because opposition politicians are quite naturally using both of these simultaneous scandals to criticize the ruling party. You read a headline and assume it's all connected. But as focused learners, we've got to look at the facts and keep things straight. The CJP is strictly 100% about exam reform and youth unemployment.
Finally, Part 6, What Happens Next? Bringing us right back to today, the fallout is actively spilling into the highest levels of government and the justice system. Moving forward, here are the critical steps to watch. Step 1. There are reportedly informal talks happening right now between CJP leaders and government officials. Are they actually going to reach a deal? Step 2. Keep your eyes on the courts. There is a case in the Delhi High Court right now regarding the heavy police surveillance on protesters. Will the judges step in? And Step 3. The big one. Will Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan finally be forced to directly answer the youth during this monsoon session?
So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Can a system that sparked a massive national uprising, partly by inadvertently comparing its own youth to cockroaches, ever actually rebuild their trust in fair evaluation? I mean, you can easily reprint test papers, you can patch up grading software, but fixing a shattered bond with an entire generation? That might just be the hardest test of all. Thank you for tuning into this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the news as this incredible story continues to unfold.